Pacific region, and at the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore, US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth issued a direct warning on China's military posturing in the region. Hegseth called out China, calling it a threat. He said Beijing's army is rehearsing for the real deal, pointing to China's military drills around Taiwan. Let's listen to the US Defense Secretary.
It has to be clear to all that Beijing is credibly preparing to potentially use military force to alter the balance of power in the Indo-Pacific. We know, it's public, that Xi has ordered his military to be capable of invading Taiwan by 2027. The PLA is building the military needed to do it, training for it every day, and rehearsing for the real deal.
Well, Hegseth also stressed that the US will not leave its allies alone in the region and promised a stronger defence presence while urging partner nations to invest more in their own security. Reassuring US commitment, he said the future of America is intertwined with the region's security and prosperity. Let's listen in again to Pete Hegseth.
America is proud to be back in the Indo-Pacific, and we're here to stay. The United States is an Indo-Pacific nation. We have been since the earliest days of our republic. We will continue to be an Indo-Pacific nation with Indo-Pacific interests for generations to come. And under President Trump's leadership, the United States is committed to achieving peace through strength. That starts with deterring aggression around the world and here in the Indo-Pacific, here in our priority theater, here with you, our allies and our partners.
Well, Hegseth emphasised the shift away from imposing ideology and instead building defence ties based on common sense and mutual interest. Hegseth warned that any Chinese attempt to forcefully take Taiwan would have devastating global consequences, reaffirming that the US does not seek war but will not be pushed out of the region. Moving on now, US President Donald Trump announced that representatives from Pakistan will visit the United States next week to discuss trade deals, including tariffs. Pakistan faces a possible 29% tariff on exports to the US due to a $3 billion trade surplus. Trump also expressed his unwillingness to make deals with Pakistan or India if the two countries engage in war, following recent clashes between the nuclear-armed neighbours. India, which faces 26% tariffs on exports to the US, is also in trade talks with Washington, with an interim agreement expected by early July. Trump mentioned that India is close to finalising a deal and recently hosted Indian Trade Minister Piyush Goyal to advance the negotiations. Staying with trade, US Trade Representative Jameson Greer is scheduled to meet next week with his European Union counterparts during his visit to Europe. Greer emphasised that China remains the largest contributor to the US trade deficit, with the EU close behind. Ahead of meetings at the OECD, he will also engage with trade officials from Malaysia, Vietnam and the EU, while maintaining daily communications with India's trade minister amid ongoing negotiations. Greer expressed serious concern over China's non-compliance with trade agreements, stressing the need for prompt resolution. He noted some officials continue to prolong negotiations. President Trump also stated that China has violated its tariff agreements, signalling continued challenges in US-China trade relations. Also, Greer stated that the United States is prepared to deploy other measures should tariff rulings be unfavourable. In related developments, President Trump recently announced an increase in tariffs on imported steel and aluminium, raising rates from 25% to 50% to protect American industries and jobs. Meanwhile, trade talks with Japan are advancing, with both parties optimistic about reaching an agreement soon. Staying with North America, and the US Supreme Court has ruled in favour of the Trump administration's immigration policy, allowing the government to revoke temporary protections for hundreds of thousands of migrants. The decision affects an estimated 532,000 individuals from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua and Venezuela who entered the United States under a 2-year humanitarian parole program established by former President Joe Biden. The ruling represents a significant legal victory for US President Donald Trump. It is the second time the Supreme Court has backed his immigration initiatives, which have faced numerous legal challenges. The parole program had allowed up to 30,000 migrants per month to enter the US temporarily from the 4 countries mentioned earlier, all of which have been criticised for human rights violations. Earlier this month, the court also cleared the way for the deportation of around 350,000 Venezuelans. The current case stems from a decision by Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem to end an 18-month extension of temporary protected status for the migrants. A 30-day notice had been issued for those impacted to depart the US unless they qualify for other legal protections.